Hello, everyone. I hope you're having an amazing day. Today, we're going to dive into a story full of heartbreak, courage, and the incredible strength of a woman who faces life's toughest storms while protecting her daughter and holding on to her peace. We'll follow Huyen's journey through betrayal, past wounds, and her fight to reclaim happiness, all while dealing with family, secrets, and the search for justice. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss our next videos. Huyen's former father-in-law found out everything his son had done. His heart shattered. Every lie, every secret, every moment of pain that had been inflicted. He felt it all, like 1,000 knives twisting at once. He realized something painfully clear. Some mistakes aren't fixed with love alone, and some kinds of pain can only truly be understood by the person who lived through them. Yet sadly, not everyone is willing or able to accept that truth. On the other side, the ex-husband's mother, Mrs. Yoa, was a woman used to control, appearances, and pride. She couldn't bear the thought of her son paying for what he'd done. So, quietly and methodically, she began plotting. Her target? Huyen, the woman she blamed for all the chaos in their family. Huyen had no choice but to stay strong, not just for herself, but for her daughter, Maya. Huyen's faith in justice, her gratitude to the man who had quietly stood by her, and her simple desire for a peaceful life were what kept her moving forward. She only wished Thuc, her ex-husband, the man who had shattered her life, would truly repent, so that when he eventually walked free from the detention center, he might look back not with anger, but with just a small, honest sense of remorse. Her own wish was simple: a life filled with caring for her daughter, tending flowers, and holding on to the peace she had fought so hard to rebuild. But, as life often shows, the past has a stubborn way of resurfacing. Trials never fully vanish. They just lie in wait. And for Huyen, the question remained: could she preserve the happiness she had clawed back? Or would a new storm arrive, brought by her mother-in-law, with words and actions capable of unraveling everything? Recently, something strange had settled over Mr. Batch's house. People noticed a shift in his wife, Thuca's mother. The shouting had stopped. The complaints had faded, replaced by quiet, measured words. She moved carefully around her husband, serving him tea, cooking the dishes he used to love. At first glance, it looked like a gentler, softer version of the woman everyone knew. But beneath that smooth exterior hid a mind still skilled in manipulation. One evening, as Mr. Batch set his teacup down on the table, she spoke, her voice dripping with the kind of sweetness that made even the hardest words seem innocent. "Old man, after all, he's still our son," she said. "Everyone makes mistakes. Thuc is in there now, struggling. Why don't we go see Gwen tomorrow and ask her to drop the charges? That girl's always been kind. I'm sure she'll listen to you." Mr. Batch looked up, exhaustion etched deep into his face. His eyes, weary with age, narrowed as he let out a long, tired sigh. But he hit his wife. He drank endlessly. How could Huyen bear it? She reached for his hand, her touch soft and disarming. Young people make impulsive choices sometimes. Think of little Maya. She's just a child. Growing up without her father would be so sad. Maybe if the sentence gets reduced, he'll change. We could be a family again, and you wouldn't carry that burden on your heart anymore. Those honeyed words seeped slowly into his mind. The kindness in them, the sense of possibility. They struck a chord in Mr. Batch. He had no idea that the woman across from him, the same one with whom he had shared half his life, was also the architect of much of the suffering in Huyen's life. The cold words, the cruel insinuations, the manipulations. She had helped shape her own son into a violent man. Meanwhile, Huyen felt her chest tighten when she learned that her father-in-law planned to visit. Memories came rushing back. The man with the slight stoop, back bent from years of hard work, who had once stepped in when Thuc came home drunk, shielding her from her husband's rage. He was the one person in that house who had, even if only a little, restored her faith in the idea of family. But now, knowing he had come to ask her to drop the charges, Huyen's heart wrenched. She wanted to tell him everything, the nights of beatings, the bruises hidden under long sleeves, the times she ran through rain-soaked streets with Maya in her arms. She wanted to expose the truth, that the son he had once proudly raised had destroyed not just a family home, but his own conscience. Yet as she watched him approach the gate, each slow, heavy step kept her silent. She knew the truth would break his heart, and in her own pain, she chose to remain quiet. Inside Huyen, two forces battled constantly: affection and wound, compassion and fury. She no longer felt hatred, yet forgiveness remained out of reach. Her mother-in-law, on the other hand, wore a mask of concern, hiding a cunning smile. Her plan was clear: soften Mr. Batch's heart, and Huyen would relent, paving the way for Thuc to go free. But she didn't understand one thing. Time could dull pain, but it could never erase memory. Some wounds, though unspoken, ache forever. That afternoon, the sky was heavy and gray, clouds moving like they carry the weight of every thought, every fear. Along the narrow dirt path leading to Huyen's small house, Mr. Batch walked slowly, hands trembling as they held a small bag. Inside were gifts for Maya: cookies, a bottle of medicinal oil, a soft wool scarf. Each step felt like it carried the weight of uncertainty. He didn't know what he would find. The past he had avoided, the daughter-in-law who had suffered so much, or the confrontation he had long delayed. As the dog barked, Huyen looked up, heart sinking when she saw him at the gate. She dried her wet hands and stepped outside. "Did Dad come to see me?" she asked softly. Mr. Batch offered a weak smile. "Yes, I was passing by and wanted to say hello." He extended the bag. "I brought Maya a few things, cookies. She likes these, right?" Huyen nodded, accepting the gift. "Yes, thank you, Dad. Maya's at school, but she'll love this when she gets home." Silence lingered, broken only by the soft rustle of leaves overhead. Finally, Mr. Batch cleared his throat, voice quivering. "Huyen, I know everything that's happened has caused you so much pain, but he's still your daughter's father. Thuc, he must be struggling too. Maybe, if you withdraw the complaint, they'll reduce his sentence." His voice faltered, and he looked down, hands clutching his hat, ashamed. Huyen stayed silent, a storm of emotion swirling inside her. She wanted to scream, to tell him everything: the abuse, the fear, the nights fleeing in the rain. But seeing the frail frame of the man she'd once respected, she breathed deeply, her voice breaking as she spoke. "Dad, I don't hold a grudge, but if you truly knew everything I've been through, you wouldn't ask me to do that." He raised his eyes, trembling. "He hit you." Huyen smiled, a sad, knowing smile. He didn't just hit me. Dad, he destroyed my trust. Every door that opened could have been a storm. Every step I took with Maya in my arms was because I had to protect her from him. And his mother, she saw it all, yet blamed me for not being able to endure. It wasn't just the beating. It was everything that came with it. Her words hit Mr. Batch like a lightning strike. He recoiled, tears filling his eyes. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid you'd be hurt even more. I never wanted to burden you, and yet I was blind. I thought my son had a temper. I never imagined. Huyen gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Don't blame yourself, Dad. Some mistakes aren't yours to carry. I just ask that no one forgets what's right and wrong, even out of love. I don't want anyone to suffer anymore, not even Thuc. But I can't withdraw the complaint, not when it's the only thing keeping my daughter safe. Mr. Batch looked at her, a mixture of pain, love, and newfound understanding in his eyes. Slowly, he nodded. You're right. I understand now. I won't say another word. I just hope you can forgive my blindness. He turned to leave, each step heavy and slow. Huyen watched, tears spilling down, not from hatred, but from the complicated sadness of loving someone who had been blind to the truth. Sometimes, she realized, the deepest wounds don't come from those who hurt us, but from those we still care about. That night, back at the old family home, Mrs. Joa waited on the porch, eyes fixed on the quiet village road. Night was falling, and Mr. Batch still hadn't returned. A mix of unease and impatience tugged at her. The dog barked, and she hurried outside. There, Dee entered slowly, shoulders hunched, eyes red as if he'd been carrying the weight of the world. Where have you been? Why are you so late? I've reheated the food several times, she said, her voice soft, trying to mask the tension, feigning concern. Dee didn't answer. He removed his hat, hung it on the wall, and sat down. His hands trembled as he filled a cup of water, but before he could lift it, he slammed it down on the table. The sharp clatter pierced the quiet. Tell me the truth, Dee said, voice firm but heavy. What has been happening in that house? What has Huyen had to endure all this time? Mrs. Joa froze. Surprise flickered across her face, quickly replaced by a sly, crooked smile. You believe that girl again? She left home, and now she wants to hurt your son. Don't you see how badly he's suffering? Thuc, being in jail. Dee slammed his fist onto the table. The sound made her flinch. Whoever causes suffering will face it themselves. I heard everything from Huyen herself. Your son, the boy I raised, got drunk, beat his wife, even threatened his child. And you just stood there, scolding her for not controlling him. Is that right? Mrs. Joa gripped a fold of her clothing, eyes wide with agitation. You believe her over me? That girl, she wants to break up the family. She wants you to hate your own son, to pity her. Enough, Joa, Dee snapped, rising to his feet. All my life, I trusted you. I thought you wanted the best for our children. But it turns out you've been defending the wrong, lying to protect appearances. You know, if I hadn't gone to see Huyen today, I might still think she's ungrateful, heartless. She recoiled, panic flashing in her eyes. I only wanted to save my son, save him by forcing the victim to forgive the one who beat her. That's saving him. Dee's eyes burned with grief and anger. I've seen Huyen's empty house. I've seen her suffering. Don't you understand? You can't justify what happened." Mrs. Joa's voice cracked. "He's my son. I can't see him in jail. And Huyen and the child, what are they? Sacrifices?" Day's voice trembled, but he was unyielding. "Look, I know you love your son, but loving him the wrong way? That's dangerous. If Thuc has any conscience left, he must answer for what he did. I won't beg Huyen. And you leave her and her daughter alone. Forever." A heavy silence settled over the room. The wind whispered through the palm leaves outside. The faint glow from the kitchen embers flickered. Mrs. Joa's eyes glistened, but it was impossible to tell if it was remorse, anger, or frustration. "You've changed, Bach," she murmured, almost inaudibly. "You've forgotten your own flesh and blood." Dee's voice was cold, firm. "I haven't forgotten. I've just realized what's right." He walked slowly toward the door, leaving Mrs. Joa alone in the dim, yellow-lit room. His figure faded beyond the porch, each step echoing like the last heartbeat of a trust broken and rebuilt in part. Mrs. Joa gripped the edge of the table, a flash of rage crossing her features. "If you won't help me, I will. I'll make Huyen kneel and beg for my son's return." Outside, the wind whipped harder, rattling the palm leaves like a storm brewing, not in the sky, but inside hearts. Meanwhile, at Huyen's small home, silence had settled deep. The river's gentle breeze stirred the thin curtain. Maya slept peacefully, curled in the pink sweater her grandfather had bought her. The oil lamp flickered softly, casting a warm glow across the room. Huyen sat quietly, clutching the crumpled note Day had left her last time. "Forgive me, daughter." Tears had dried on her cheeks, leaving only a heavy knot in her chest. She knew that even with the truth revealed, the road ahead would not be easy. Mrs. Joa would not stop. She valued pride, bloodlines, and appearances above justice and empathy. But fear had been replaced by something stronger: determination. Huyen knew she would not bow down again. She looked at Maya, breathing calmly in her sleep, and felt the peace of this small, fleeting moment. This tranquility, the innocence of her child, was her reason to stand strong. She thought, "If she comes tomorrow, I won't hide. I will protect my daughter. I will protect our peace, even if I face the world alone." The tears returned, but now they were different. Not tears of weakness, but of someone gathering strength, reclaiming herself. She added more oil to the lamp, watching the light grow, illuminating the corners of her home, her soul. "Thuc," she whispered, voice hoarse but steady. "I no longer hold a grudge. Consider everything that happened a debt paid. I only hope you learn to repent, to look back and remember there was a woman who endured her own hell for love. I don't wish suffering on you. I only hope you change so that one day you can meet Maya's eyes without shame." Her gaze shifted to D, the man who never made promises, never spoke grandly, yet had been silently holding the pieces of her life together. He had fixed the broken fence, taken Maya to school, lit the fire on cold mornings. He had carried burdens that weren't his own, never asking for acknowledgement or reward. Huyen wondered quietly, did he ever feel tired? Did he regret staying by our side? But every time she saw the warmth in his gaze, the smile he gave Maya, those doubts faded. She knew Day deserved a life filled with love, without the shadows of her past. And though her heart still trembled, she felt hope, a fragile, steady hope that kindness could still exist, that people could change, and that peace could be rebuilt, even in pieces. Outside, A bamboo chime swayed in the wind, releasing a clear, soft tone. Huyen smiled, a small prayer forming in her mind. I only ask that whatever happens tomorrow, Maya and I have the strength to endure. That those who caused harm find their way to good. And that those who are with us live in joy and peace. Let this calm, this small haven, remain for my daughter. Let her grow surrounded by love. The moonlight streamed through the window, bathing her face in a gentle glow. Not the glow of triumph, but the quiet radiance of someone who had learned something profound. That true happiness isn't just being loved. It's choosing to love, even after being hurt, even after storms have passed. Huyen leaned back, eyes closing, heart trembling but steady. She had survived. She had chosen love, courage, and protection over fear. And tonight, in the soft moonlight, she felt it. The fragile, undeniable beauty of hope, of life, of family rebuilt on her own terms. Huyen's life has been shattered by betrayal, abuse, and the cruel manipulations of her ex-husband Thuc and his mother, Mrs. Joa. Yet,
Trong câu
despite the
chuyện cảm động
darkness,
này, Huyền
she
đoàn tụ với
remains
đệ sau nhiều
determined to
tháng xa cách.
protect her daughter
Mối dây liên
Maya
kết của họ được
and
củng
reclaim
cố
a
bởi
peaceful
vắng mặt
life.
và tình yêu
Along
bền
the
vững.
way,
Cùng
she
nhau, họ
finds
tập trung chăm sóc cô
unexpected
gái
support
Maya,
in
xây
Diep,
dựng một mái ấm
a
an toàn
quiet
và tràn đầy
man
yêu thương,
who helps piece
đồng
together her
thời hỗ
broken
trợ Tử
world
Vi, một cô
without
gái trẻ
asking for
đang đối mặt
anything
với
in
khó khăn.
return.
Những
As
khoảnh khắc
Mr.
gia đình
Batch,
chuẩn bị bữa
her
ăn,
former
dựng lên một
father-in-law,
cấu trúc cho
discovers the
Maya
truth
và
and
chia sẻ
confronts
tiếng
the
cười,
lies that have haunted his family.
phản ánh tình
The
yêu sâu sắc
story
và
reaches
sự
a
quan tâm
turning
lẫn
point.
nhau trong gia đình. Tuy nhiên,
Huyen must decide
sự bình
whether
yên
to
của họ
face the
gián đoạn
relentless
khi kẻ
scheming
xâm
of
nhập xuất
Mrs.
hiện,
Joa
tìm kiếm
or
Tử Vi
continue
và làm
shielding
nổi
her
bật
daughter
sự
in
mong manh
silence.
và những nguy hiểm mà họ phải đối
Every
mặt.
choice carries
Những
weight,
căng thẳng và bất định,
and every
Huyền
secret
và Đệ
could
lên kế hoạch
unravel
cho một tương
everything
lai
she's
an toàn
worked
hơn.
for.
Quyết định trở về
Will
miền Bắc
justice
để gần gũi hơn với
and
gia đình
peace
và mang lại
finally
sự ổn định cho
prevail?
Maya.
Or
Qua
will
những thử
new
thách, mối đe
storms
dọa và
threaten to
những
destroy their fragile calm?